Hi, and welcome back to Will Henry's Workshop. In the last segment, I spent most of the time sniveling about the effort and money that I'd put into what turned out to be a bad barrel. And so this segment, I thought I'd do a little less sniveling and kind of do a show and tell. Back in 1979, it was, that at that time I was shooting a lot of short-range bench rest, and in 1979 I decided to build my first 6 PPC. Up till then I'd been competing with the 6x47, which worked very well for me, but nonetheless I wanted to build a 6 PPC. Previously, a friend of mine, Bob Forsland, had demonstrated his, and it shot so well that anyway I had to get on the bandwagon. So it was that in 1979 I ordered up an Action and built my first 6 PPC. Well, I shot this rifle for quite a while, and I won a lot of stuff with it. It worked really well for me. I shot it through 1980, 81, and the start of 82, and then around then I was shooting less, and so I sold the rifle, and the fellow I sold it to has since passed away, and because after all it's been 43 years. But his son had the rifle, and he contacted me and asked if I was interested in it. Well, I was, and so I bought it from him. So I'll show you this thing. Just zoom in just a little bit. Whoops. There. So here it was. When I decided to build the 6 PPC, I always like things that are just a little bit different. So I built mine on a Wichita Mini Action. Now the Mini Action is kind of unique in that it has no loading port. The bolt is a shell holder type. That is, you just insert the case into the head of the bolt just like that, and then stick the whole works into the rifle, and there you have it. So anyway, that's what I built the rifle on, was on this Mini Action, and I used a Hart barrel. It's in a Lee 6 stock. There again, it's the same stock, and it's still glued in as it was when I built it in 1979. Now the stock's it's a little beat up. The bolt handle came adrift at some point and was kind of inexpertly reattached, but nonetheless it looks solid enough and it functions fine, so I'll probably leave it alone. There's a little bit of etching in the bolt face where primers have leaked a little bit over the years. That's not anything that really bothers me, and if it looks like a lot of those might have been from primers that where the cup failed and it actually cut the bolt face a little. But anyway, if it bothers me, I can drill it out and bush the bolt, but I don't think it's going to bother. The glue, it was glued in with, as I recall, DevCon EK10, which is a high impact resistant epoxy that was available at the time, and it worked really well for me. So it's still as it was. You can see it wears Bushnell rings on a Weaver base, kind of, well, I wouldn't call it state of the art for 1980, but it was something that worked just fine. They're lightweight rings, as is the base. The base is glued on with what appears to be DevCon 2-ton epoxy. The fitting in the stock I could have done better, and so I'll be redoing that. I'll have to refinish it. The rifle has a Canjar LP trigger, and I've actually got one of those triggers. It's not in a gun. There it is, and I really like the LP. It's got this funky little wire trigger piece, but it's a very good trigger. This one is set at feels right at 2 ounces or maybe a smidgen less. And there again, it's just as I had built it. Now this rifle originally wore a 24 power Leupold scope, and he still has the scope, but he felt that he had a use for it, and so I didn't get the scope with the rifle. I kind of would like to, because it was just fine for me, and I kind of wanted to have the whole outfit. Interestingly, this brass is the same brass that I had formed and turned and so on in 1979, and it's worn out a couple of barrels. And this barrel, I looked at it with the bore scope, and while it's obviously fired some shots since I sold it, I mean it has been 43 years, it's not that bad. I'll probably set it back a ½ inch or so. I believe it's 21.5 long. Now, I'll get my trusty tape measure out because I can't really remember. Yeah, 21, and so I'll take it back to 20.5. And the whole thing, you'll notice it looks very short. Well, it is pretty short, and but because the action is so short, it makes it look even more stubby. Now this stock is from Lee 6, and it's still not a bad stock, but it's really not the best one. Having the pistol grip protrude down below the bottom of the stock line is a bit of an issue, because with your hand back on the bag, it comes back, hits your hand. And also there's more slope here on the bottom of the stock than is really ideal. The closer you can have, I believe the rules call for the slope to be somewhat greater than the forearm, but the closer that you can come to having the thing come straight back, the better off you are. This stock is also kind of tall compared to the stocks used today. Most of them sit a little lower in the bags, and which is probably an advantage. But I may make some changes here to this stock. I want to keep the same stock, but I may make some changes here to this to the stock line on the bottom, just so it'll track a little better. Now I haven't shot a short range bench rest match for, oh gosh, it's been probably at least 10 years or more, and that was the first one I had shot for 10 years prior to that. So it's when I start up again, I'll be kind of starting from scratch. In fact, I don't even have proper sandbags anymore, just because I haven't been shooting that type. But nonetheless, next year, next spring, I'll have this all ready and be ready to go. I'm going to have to make an action wrench so I can pull the barrel off. I had an action wrench, which I had made there again back in 1979, but darn if I know where it's at. And sometime in the intervening 43 years and 4 moves, that's something that didn't make the cut, I guess. So I'll have to make a cleaning rod guide for it, and all the little things that a person ends up needing. I've still got the original dies that I was using back then, as well as some others, so I'm good there. So anyway, this is a little more upbeat. It's kind of like bringing an old friend back home, and we'll see next spring. We'll see if I can still be at all competitive with the new stuff that's on the line at the Venturous matches. I'm not super optimistic. After all, I am, I suppose, a little older. My eyes aren't as good, so who knows? But anyway, it's going to be fun. Whether or not I'll end up getting that scope before then, but I've got others that'll work just fine. So there we are. Anyway, that's that. And now I'm going to get right back into my Kimber parade here, and we're going to set up the 7x57 barrel and chamber it and get it on and get the whole thing in the stock. And then it's a couple of 338-06s, also on Kimbers, and gosh, then a 243, a 223. It's never ending. So anyway, that's what we're looking forward to. But for now, this is Will Henry out.